Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a cloud architect or an engineering leader today, you already know the painful truth. The sheer volume of tools required just to ship a piece of software has completely skyrocketed. So today, we're taking a deep dive into internal developer platforms, or IDPs, and looking at exactly how they tame all this modern cloud complexity. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the cognitive overload crisis. Then, we'll define the IDP solution, break down its core pillars, talk about how to avoid common implementation pitfalls, and finally, look at how to actually start your platform journey. All right, let's jump straight into part one, the cognitive overload crisis. Now, we all know cloud-native architectures gave us absolutely incredible flexibility, right? But honestly, they also brought a massive cognitive overload problem. We constantly see this intense friction in engineering teams right now. On one hand, you have the drive to deliver actual business value, but on the other, it's just managing infrastructure. We are suddenly asking developers to be absolute experts in Kubernetes, intricate CI/CD pipelines, and deep monitoring systems. And let's be real, it is a complete distraction from their primary job. It's so easy to visualize this frustration. Just imagine a developer literally holding their head, completely drowning in this tangled, messy web of infrastructure provisioning, compliance controls, and networking nodes. That right there is the complexity barrier in action. We've basically expected developers to carry the weight of entire operations teams on their shoulders, and frankly, it's burning them out. And this is exactly where that overload morphs into a critical enterprise risk, which is fragmentation. Without a totally standard approach, developers end up building their own isolated islands. You know how it goes. Team A deploys things one way, while Team B scripts it completely differently. Doing this drastically increases your operational risk, slows down delivery, and creates this massive, unmanageable inconsistency across the entire organization. So how do we fix it? That brings us to section 2, defining the IDP solution. How do we actually build a bridge over that complexity barrier? Well, enter the Internal Developer Platform, or IDP. By definition, it's a collection of tools, services, workflows, and automation capabilities designed specifically to improve the developer experience by abstracting all that underlying complexity. So instead of forcing developers to master every single infrastructure component out there, an IDP gives them standardized self-service capabilities. It completely hides the plumbing while still maintaining strict operational standards. It really helps to think of the IDP as the actual product behind platform engineering. If platform engineering is your team and your strategy, well, the IDP is the thing they deliver. It's basically about taking infrastructure, Kubernetes, observability, and security, and unifying them all into one centralized experience. It's standardization, but wrapped up in a seamless, self-service package. Let's move on to section 3 and look at the architecture, the core pillars of an IDP. When you look under the hood, a really high-functioning platform rests on 5 core pillars. First, it starts with self-service infrastructure, so developers can finally skip the whole support ticket game. Next, you need CI/CD automation for standard, reliable pipelines. Then we embed security guardrails directly into the workflows, right alongside observability, which means things like logging and monitoring are just turned on by default. And finally, the whole shebang lives inside a developer portal, giving everyone a clean, centralized UI. But here is the absolute crucial point. An IDP is not a cage. We are not trying to lock developers down. Instead, we're building what we call golden paths. These are basically paved roads that make doing the right thing, from a security and compliance standpoint, the absolute easiest option for a developer to take. You really want your engineers choosing the platform because it works flawlessly for them, not because they're being forced into it. And man, when you successfully pave those golden paths, the benefits are staggering. Organizations see dramatically faster software delivery and a huge spike in developer productivity. Plus, because those best practices are baked right in, you instantly inherit a much better security posture. At the end of the day, measuring the success of your platform comes down to tracking that reduced operational complexity and seeing widespread, consistent governance and reliability across all your teams. Of course, it's not always smooth sailing. Let's look at section 4, avoiding common implementation pitfalls. No architecture deep dive is complete without a bit of a reality check, right? Because I think we've all seen massive enterprise initiatives completely go off the rails. The biggest mistake organizations make? Attempting to build platforms in a vacuum without actually understanding what their developers need. That just leads to these over-engineered nightmares. We also see so-called IDPs that lack true self-service. They're basically just slapping a shiny new UI over the same old manual IT tickets. If you ignore developer feedback or skimp on documentation, your platform is absolutely going to be abandoned. As architects, we absolutely have to remember this core tenet. The platform should simplify operations, not introduce additional friction. If your brand new IDP makes developers navigate a maze of new complexities just to get their code out, well, we failed. Simplification is literally the entire point of doing this. All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, starting your platform journey. If you are ready to kick off this journey in your own organization, you've got to follow these 3 rules. First up, systematically understand your developer's needs before you write a single line of code. Number 2, treat your platform as a genuine product. It needs a real roadmap and constant iteration. And third, you have to treat your developers like they are your customers. Your platform engineering team needs to actively win their adoption by providing undeniable value. Ultimately, the entire return on investment of an IDP really boils down to this one simple sentence. Developers should build products, not manage infrastructure. When you do this correctly, platform engineering completely removes that cognitive load and frees your teams up to do what they do best, actually innovate. So I'll leave you with this somewhat provocative thought as you evaluate your own cloud strategy going forward. Are you building a true platform that accelerates your developers, or are you really just piling on more infrastructure for them to manage? Think about what your internal teams are dealing with today. A properly architected IDP might just be the exact game changer you've been looking for. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.